I am way too excited today. It's been a while, but you know what? Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. My name is Bash Harry, and this is the Harry Knit. We do a lot of knitting related content here, so please subscribe if you are interested in all that. Today, we have finally released my first garment pattern ever! Yay! If you're watching this, I just released the Awan vest, which is now available on Ravelry and Ko-fi, so please check it out. It's currently $6.50 US if you're interested, but if you're watching this video, then there is a discount. You can use HELLO10 for 10% off your purchase. I don't want to get too salesy for this video, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the pattern, about the Awan vest, and how to wear it, how to style it, but also the construction, and just talk a little bit about it. If you're interested in making the piece, it's something that I have worked really hard on. As a knitter, as a knitwear designer, it really taught me a lot, especially the grading and the editing process and talking to the test knitters and everything. So it's been a very intense experience, but I honestly loved it so much. And I thought, why not celebrate and just share with you guys a discount code while also talking about what is going on with the Awan vest. It has been a wild ride. It's been under development for about 3 months now, I think, since May. And if you know, I lost the footage to make it, so I kind of got really sad, but thankfully we still have the finished piece, and I want to talk about it. I made about 2.5 samples. I say 2.5 because the blue and the pink are completed. The red one, I still need to finish because there's going to be a tutorial with the vest in the coming weeks. I just need to finish it and then edit the monstrosity of that video. But that is what I'm going to tell you right now. We're going to talk about the yarn, the needles, the notions, everything that you need to know about the Awan vest, and just kind of chat about it because we like chatting on this channel. We talk a lot. The Awan vest is a bottom-up construction meant for beginner to advanced beginner level knitters. So if you're on that level, I think this project would be really great for you because it's a bulky weight. It uses 8mm needles, 8mm for the body and 6mm for the ribbing and I-cord. I think the most complicated part of the pattern would be the I-cord edge. I wanted to make a piece that was beginner friendly because that was the kind of thing I wanted as a beginner when I was first starting out with garments. I wanted something that was quick, easy, but relatively clear as well. I also wanted something that was a great layering piece, something that I could wear over clothes because that is my personal preference. And I wanted something simple but super textured, which is why in the pattern it recommends mohair or kind of this fluffy fabric. And we'll talk more about what kind of yarn you should choose when working with this. Like I said, it's very beginner friendly, and I'm hoping the pattern itself is beginner friendly, trying to keep it concise, trying to keep it easy, trying to keep it clean, and as much information as possible. This is probably the one that I wear the most often is the pink and the blue sample because they're the only two that I have right now. And I am completely in love. I genuinely am very proud of it. And it's just so exciting to see all the test knitters making their own designs and how they personally style it in their different weather. We have test knitters from Brazil, the UK, the US, and so it's just amazing to see how they style it for the summer. I, like I said, live in the summertime. I live in Brunei where it's perpetually hot. So this pattern, because it is a vest using mohair or mohair-like, It's not actually that heavy, and it's great for summer, at least for me personally. I get cold very easily, actually. So wearing this plus a t-shirt is perfect for me. So what would you need when you're making this? You will need 8mm needles or anything to obtain the gauge. It is very important to use circular needles. It's just a given when you want to make some patterns. I know that circular needles are usually the standard for more advanced knitters. So I personally just like having patterns that are using circular needles. It's easier and you get to, try it on when you can. Plus, I'm somebody who doesn't like to seam that much. So if I can limit the amount of seaming I have to do, perfect, amazing, no need, great. You will also need a stitch marker, not a lot, just one, to mark your beginning of the round. You may also want a darning needle at hand, and you need to know the gauge. The gauge is 9 stitches by 11 rows for 4 inches / 10 centimeters, which is relatively bulky, but I managed to hit gauge on 3 different types of yarn, and we'll talk about it in another section. I think gauge is more important than the needles, honestly, so use whatever needles you have to obtain the gauge you need with the yarn you use. It sounds less complicated than it actually is, and once you get the hang of it, it's cool. I want to show you the 3 samples that I made. I made one, which is the original, and this is the Awan vest in size 2. I should mention now, before I forget, that it's sized with size 1, 2, 3 up till 9. So it is size inclusive up to size 9, which is a 62-inch bust. However, we don't use extra small, small, medium. I'm trying to avoid using that terminology for my own personal preference. So I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So the first one that I did was in size 2, which is this one right here. It was the very first one I ever made, and she's a beaut, she's a cutie, she is bright pink, and it's definitely in my color palette. The second one that I made is this one, and this is in the size 1, and this was originally for my sister, but because the original pattern is quite loose with about 6 inches of positive ease, I can easily fit this if I wanted a more fitted garment. So if that's something that you want, size down, just size down. This one I also added an additional 3 inches of length because that's what my sister wanted. And what else did I change up? I didn't change anything else apart from the length. And I'm also making another one. Oh, I forgot. This one uses Drops Wish, and this one uses Hobby Diablo Multi, which they were very kind to send me, which got me inspired in the first place. And the final sample that I'm making for a tutorial that's gonna come out soon-ish is this one, which is sample size 2 as well, but in Hobby Diablo held 5. It's the original, I want to say lace weight, but held 5 strands together. So I just wanted to test it out and see how it looks. And so far it looks really good. I haven't done the ribbing or the I-cord edge yet. So just keep that in mind. The pattern itself is a boxy cropped fit, but you're able to customize the length to your choosing if you are following the pattern. So no worries. The original length is supposed to be very cropped. We did talk about it for the test knitters, and I decided to lengthen it slightly just to fit everyone's body shape and size, especially for their torso. So keep that in mind when you're knitting it up because it is bottom up. You don't want to knit too many rounds. You don't want to knit up too many rounds without realizing that it might be too long for what you choose. So there's some math involved. There's always going to be math involved when it comes to writing up or knitting a garment for your specific body shape. So just keep that in mind when you're making it. As I said, I do recommend using super bulky yarn, but I know some other test knitters who have done it with 5 strands of thin yarn like this, using drops alpaca or kid silk. There have been others that used wool in the gang. I will leave some of the recommendations up on the screen for you. And yeah, it's really great to see how everyone has been enjoying the Awan vest. I like the texture. I love how everyone's been styling it. Now I kind of want to talk about what specific yarn you should choose. As I said, this garment is supposed to be very fluffy and lightweight, but if you choose something like a cotton or linen, which some test knitters have done, the drape is going to be very different. It's going to look less fluffy like this or this, but instead it's going to look heavier. The drape is going to look very different, so keep that in mind when you are knitting it up or when you're choosing yarn. That being said, I don't think it would look bad. Honestly, I love cotton. I love working with cotton. I love working with summer weight garments. It's just my favorite thing. So I would just like to point that out. It's just going to look a little bit different. I want to also mention that if you want to use different yarns, hobby is great and it's budget. Drops as well is a really great budget-friendly option. But if you're looking for something more high quality, maybe Wool in the Gang Take Care Mohair would be a great option for you. I've personally never worked with Wool in the Gang. Wool in the Gang? They don't ship to my country. I think they do actually, but it's really expensive. And your girl is on a budget, okay? She's got to budget for food. So we want to keep that in mind when we're working with what we have. Yes, it is a pattern that I wanted beginners to be able to use. I wanted it to be easy, and I think it is. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I do hope that it is easy to understand and it isn't complicated. This pattern is so strange to say pattern because I never really thought I could ever publish a pattern, which is crazy, but amazing. I never really thought I could release a pattern, but I just did, and it feels so weird. But I'm really happy to have done it, and it's using something that I know that I would get a lot of wear out of, a lot of love out of, and it's something that I hope I can make more often. I also want to thank my tech editor for helping me out with the grading and the editing of the pattern. I know going back and forth took way too long, just with all my questions and all the things that honestly I had no idea until I started grading it. And I also want to thank my test knitters for helping out and applying. It was so great. And everyone who did apply, but unfortunately I couldn't choose because there were like so many people. But it was just so incredible to see their test knits, and I absolutely loved it. I am just so incredibly honored and so happy to see all of their work, all of their comments, and everything that I could put into the pattern so they could really help me make what I thought was a pattern that was worth having. And I know we have that discussion of like mediocre patterns and what are worth to be published and things like that over the past few months, but I know my stance on it, which is I think all patterns aren't mediocre. No pattern is mediocre because all patterns take so much effort and time and love to create and make, and you really do need some sort of passion at least to be able to make something you love. And I'm just rambling on right now. I do that a lot, and I'm sorry. Anyway, like I said, this is available on Ravelry and Ko-fi. Maybe if in the future I decide to publish more patterns, then it will be on a website, but not yet, because that'll be a little bit too expensive for me right now. but as of now, it is available on Ravelry and Ko-fi, and you can find it in the link in the description or the comments or the links that I'll probably have here on my website. No, not my website, on this YouTube video. That is about it. That's all I want to say. And before I forget, I want to thank you as well for just being here and listening to me talk about the vest for what feels like a long time. But I just want to thank you. It is really nice to see everyone's really sweet comments, and I absolutely adore it. And I hope you guys have a lovely day. I know this isn't the kind of video that I usually post, but nevertheless, I do hope you enjoy. If you did, please do like, comment, and subscribe. It's a really short one, but he's a pattern! I will talk to you guys later. My name is Bash Harry. This is the Harry Knit, and I'll see you probably next week on a Monday. Bye! Everyone's lining up to see her. She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her. There must be something about her features. You'll find her beauty.